In the endless night of Arctic winter, Dr. Elena Santos stood at the edge of what she believed would change human history forever. The excavation site, illuminated by powerful floodlights, descended nearly a kilometer into the ancient ice. But it wasn't the depth that made this discovery extraordinary. It was what they'd found at the bottom. Energy readings are still climbing, reported Dr. James Chen, his voice crackling through the radio as he studied the instruments from their makeshift command center. Whatever this structure is, it's becoming more active the more we expose it. Helena adjusted her thermal suit and carefully made her way down the reinforced scaffolding. The object they'd discovered 3 weeks ago defied conventional explanation. A perfect sphere, 30 meters in diameter, made of a material that absorbed all scanning attempts. Its surface was midnight black, yet seemed to ripple like liquid when observed directly. Movement detected on the surface again, James announced. Same pattern as before. It responds when you get closer. Elena reached the bottom of the excavation site, her boots crunching on the cleared ice. The sphere loomed before her, its surface now undulating with subtle patterns that reminded her of mural activity. She'd seen similar patterns in brain scans, but this was happening on a massive scale. Beginning approach test Alpha 7. She spoke into her radio, keeping her voice steady despite her racing heart. This would be their 7th attempt to make direct contact with the sphere. Previous attempts had produced increasingly strong energy signatures, but no breakthrough. As Elena moved closer, the surface of the sphere began to change. The ripples intensified, forming complex geometric patterns that seemed to pulse with an inner light. The temperature around her dropped suddenly, her suit's sensors warning of a 10-degree decrease in less than a second. Elena, we're picking up something new. James's voice held an edge of excitement. The energy signature. It's not just random anymore. There's a pattern emerging. It's like it's trying to establish a protocol. She was 5 meters from the sphere when it happened. The surface suddenly stilled, becoming mirror smooth, and in its reflection, Elena saw something impossible. Instead of her own image, she saw what appeared to be a vast chamber filled with technology beyond human understanding. The vision lasted only a second before the sphere's surface erupted in a cascade of light and color. All sensors just went offline. James shouted, "No, wait. They're back. But these readings can't be right. Elena, are you seeing this?" She was. The sphere had become transparent, revealing a core of swirling energy that pulsed in perfect synchronization with her heartbeat. As she watched, lines of light began to spread from the sphere into the surrounding ice, forming a complex network that resembled a circuit board made of pure energy. "James," Elena whispered, "I think it's waking up." High above Earth's atmosphere, aboard the cloaked observation vessel Eternal Vigilance, first observer Zix 427 was experiencing what his species would call a panic response. His monitoring systems had detected an energy signature that couldn't exist, on a planet at Earth's technological level. Confirm these readings, he ordered his crew, all 6 of his sensory appendages trembling. Check for equipment malfunction. Readings confirmed, his second responded, their crystalline form pulsing with anxiety. The signature matches forbidden pattern Alpha 0. The humans have found a nexus core. Zix 427 felt his primary heart stop momentarily. In all his centuries of observing Earth, he'd never imagined this possibility. The nexus cores were legendary, self-aware technological artifacts left behind by the precursors, designed to elevate species deemed worthy of advancement. Most of the galaxy's elder races had spent millennia searching for them without success, and now, impossibly, humans had found one. Back in the excavation site, Elena watched as the sphere's transformation continued. The network of energy had spread throughout the entire cavity, turning the walls of ice into displays showing streams of data in an unknown language. But somehow, as she looked at them, she began to understand. "James," she called out, her voice filled with wonder, "I can read it. It's teaching me how to read it." "That's impossible," he responded, but his voice held more awe than doubt. "The patterns we're recording. They're changing the structure of the ice at a quantum level. It's like the whole cavern is becoming one massive computer." Elena felt a presence brush against her mind, not invasive, but inviting. The sphere was reaching out, offering something. Understanding flooded her consciousness. This wasn't just a piece of advanced technology. It was a key, left behind by beings who had watched humanity's development, waiting for the moment when we would be ready. "It's a test," she realized aloud. Finding it was only the first part. Now we have to prove we're ready for what it contains. Above, Zix 427 was frantically composing an emergency transmission to the Collective Council. The humans weren't supposed to find a Nexus core for at least another 1,000 years. His species had carefully calculated Earth's technological progression, managing their development through subtle intervention to ensure they wouldn't advance too quickly. But they had missed this. Somehow, they had missed a Nexus core buried beneath the ice of Earth's polar region. And now everything was about to change. "New energy signature detected," his sensor officer reported, voice quavering. "The core, it's activating something else. Something bigger." Zix 427 watched in horror as his displays showed new power signatures awakening around the planet. More cores, hidden in the deepest oceans, the highest mountains, the most remote deserts. The humans hadn't just found one Nexus core. They'd found the first of many. And now that one was awakening, the others were responding. "Begin emergency protocol Omega-7," he ordered, knowing it was already too late. "Inform the Council that Earth has achieved breakthrough status. The humans, they're about to make a quantum leap in development." In the Arctic excavation, Elena stood transfixed as the sphere shared its first clear message. Not in words, but in pure understanding. Humanity had been watched, tested, and judged worthy. Not because they were special, but because they had demonstrated something unique. The ability to advance technologically while retaining their compassion, their creativity, their essential humanity. The sphere had chosen this moment to reveal itself because humanity had reached a crucial balance point. Advanced enough to understand what they were being offered, but not so advanced that they had lost their capacity for wonder. "James," Elena said, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was experiencing, "prepare to contact every major scientific institution and government agency. What we found here, it's going to change everything." The sphere pulsed one final time, and in that pulse, Elena saw humanity's future, a future where the stars themselves were within reach. But first, they would have to face the attention of a galaxy that had never expected Earth to advance so quickly. Above, Zix 427 watched helplessly as his worst fears were confirmed. The humans weren't just going to join galactic civilization. They were going to revolutionize it. And no one, not even the eldest races of the Collective, was prepared for what that would mean. 6 months after the discovery in the Arctic, the landscape of human technological development had changed beyond recognition. The sprawling research complex built around the original sphere, now known as Nexus Prime, hummed with activity day and night. But it was what lay beneath the surface that truly showcased humanity's quantum leap forward. Dr. Elena Santos stood in the central chamber of the MindForge facility, watching as teams of scientists and engineers worked in perfect synchronization with technology that shouldn't exist yet. The sphere had done more than just provide advanced knowledge. It had taught them how to think differently about the very nature of reality. "Integration test sequence starting," announced Dr. James Chen from his position at the main control interface, a seamless blend of human and Nexus technology. "Mind-link protocols active." The massive chamber, stretching half a kilometer underground, housed humanity's first attempt at implementing what the sphere had taught them. The MindForge vessel looked nothing like conventional spacecraft. Its hull seemed to breathe, surfaces flowing like liquid metal, responding to the thoughts and intentions of its creators. Neural synchronization at 98.7%, reported Captain Sarah Mitchell, the test pilot chosen for this historic moment. She sat within the vessel's control center, her mind directly interfaced with its systems through technology that merged consciousness with quantum computing. Elena watched the displays showing Sarah's neural patterns merging with the ship's systems. This was what made their breakthrough so revolutionary. The sphere hadn't just given them advanced technology, it had shown them how to create technology that could evolve, learn, and grow alongside its human operators. Energy core stabilizing, James reported. Quantum field harmonics are perfect. We're ready for the first full power test. Above the facility, unknown to most of the personnel below, the alien observation vessel Eternal Vigilance maintained its watch. First observer Zix 427 had been joined by a dozen other ships from various collective species, all drawn by the unprecedented energy signatures emanating from Earth. "This is impossible," declared Senior Administrator Kralvox of the Collective Science Council, his crystalline form vibrating with agitation. "They're not just using the Nexus Core's technology. They're improving upon it. No species has ever managed that before." Zix 427 watched the humans' progress with a mixture of fear and fascination. In 6 months, they had achieved what other civilizations hadn't managed in millennia of studying recovered precursor artifacts. "They think differently," he observed. "Where we saw absolute laws of physics, they see possibilities. Where we sought to control the technology, they seek to understand it." Back in the Mindforge facility, Sarah Mitchell felt her consciousness expand as the vessel's systems fully integrated with her mind. It wasn't like controlling a machine. It was like becoming something more than human while remaining fundamentally herself. "Neural bridge complete," she announced, her voice carrying both human emotion and something else, something that spoke of vast potential waiting to be unleashed. Beginning primary system activation. The vessel's surface rippled with patterns of light that seemed to follow mathematical formulas too complex for the human eye to track. But to Sarah, connected through the neural interface, they were as clear as her own thoughts. "Energy levels rising," James reported, his voice tight with excitement. "We're seeing quantum field fluctuations that shouldn't be possible. The vessel isn't just generating power, it's rewriting local physics." Elena smiled. That was exactly what the sphere had taught them. That the laws of physics as they understood them were more like guidelines, suggestions that could be revised under the right circumstances. The Mindforge vessel wasn't fighting against universal constants, it was negotiating with them. In orbit, the alien observers watched in growing alarm as their instruments registered the impossible. The humans' creation was generating energy signatures that matched theoretical models of how the universe had behaved in its first moments after the Big Bang. "We must stop this," Kralvox declared. "If they lose control—" "They won't," Zix 427 interrupted, surprising himself with his certainty. "Look at the containment patterns. They're not just stable, they're elegant. The humans aren't forcing this technology to work. They're working with it." The Mindforge vessel began to rise from its cradle, floating on fields of manipulated quantum probability. Sarah felt the universe around her, not as an obstacle to be overcome, but as a partner in a cosmic dance. "All systems nominal," she reported. "Beginning spatial manipulation test." The air around the vessel seemed to fold, creating patterns that hurt the eyes of observers even as monitoring equipment struggled to make sense of what was happening. Space itself was responding to the vessel's presence, offering paths that shouldn't exist. "By the first light," Kralvox whispered, watching the readings. "They're not just building a ship. They're creating something that can rewrite the rules of reality itself." Elena watched as the test continued, each moment bringing humanity closer to a future the sphere had promised. But she knew this was just the beginning. The sphere had shown her visions of what was to come, both the wonders and the challenges. "Message from the Quantum Observation Array," James called out. "We're detecting multiple artificial signatures in orbit. Looks like we have an audience." Elena nodded. They had known this moment would come. The sphere had prepared them for it, showing them how the galaxy's established powers would react to humanity's sudden leap forward. "Send them a greeting," she instructed. "Let them know we're aware of their presence, and let them know we're ready for what comes next." The Mindforge vessel pulsed once, sending a quantum signal that cut through all known forms of stealth technology. In orbit, the alien observers found themselves exposed, their most advanced cloaking systems rendered meaningless by a simple greeting that carried an unmistakable message. Humanity was no longer just reaching for the stars. They were ready to reshape them. The Collective Council's diplomatic vessel emerged from faster-than-light travel with a display of power meant to impress or intimidate the watching humans. Its crystalline structure caught Earth's sunlight, refracting it in patterns that spoke of technological mastery developed over millennia. But in the control center of the Mindforge facility, Elena Santos allowed herself a small smile. The sphere had prepared them for this moment, showing them exactly how the Collective would try to establish dominance from the first encounter. "Their ship design is inefficient," Sarah Mitchell observed from her neural interface with the Mindforge vessel. Through the advanced sensors, she could see the flaws in the Collective's technology, not because it was primitive, but because it was bound by assumptions its creators had never thought to question. "Incoming transmission," James announced. "Full spectrum, multiple encoding layers. They're trying to demonstrate their communication capabilities." "Respond on all frequencies," Elena instructed. "But use the quantum resonance protocol. Let's show them what real communication looks like." The Mindforge vessel pulsed once, sending a signal that didn't just transmit information, it shared understanding. Aboard the Collective ship, the alien diplomats found their neural networks flooded with perfect comprehension of human language and culture, delivered with a precision that made their most advanced translation technology seem crude. "Greetings, representatives of the Collective," Elena's voice reached them, carried by quantum vibrations that bypassed traditional communication barriers. "Earth welcomes you to a conversation that has been 50,000 years in the making." On the Collective vessel, High Ambassador Vrel XR fought to maintain composure. In 1,000 years of diplomatic service, she had never encountered anything like this. You know of us," she managed to respond. "The sphere showed us everything," Elena replied. "Your observation posts, your careful management of our development, your fear of what humanity might become if allowed to advance too quickly. We understand your concerns. Now it's time for you to understand us." The Mindforge vessel moved, its motion defying conventional physics. One moment it was near the surface, the next it hung alongside the Collective ship, close enough for them to see its living metal surface, shifting with patterns that spoke of consciousness and purpose. "Impossible," whispered one of the Collective's senior scientists. "Their control over spatial mechanics. It exceeds our theoretical models." "That's because your models are built on assumptions." Sarah's voice joined the conversation. Through her neural link, she could sense the alien ship systems, could see how they clung to conventional laws of physics like a child clinging to training wheels. "The universe isn't a machine that follows unchangeable rules. It's alive, and it can be negotiated with." In orbit, more Collective ships were arriving, drawn by reports of human advancement. Each new arrival found their sensors filled with readings that challenged everything they thought they knew about technological development. "You must understand our position." Vrel Khar attempted to regain diplomatic initiative. "Such rapid advancement poses risks. The Collective has maintained galactic stability for millennia by ensuring controlled technological growth. By holding other species back," Elena corrected gently. "By deciding who gets to advance and when. The sphere showed us the truth. How many civilizations have you guided away from discoveries like this? How many potential breakthroughs have you suppressed in the name of stability?" The silence that followed was heavy with implications. The Mindforge vessel's surface rippled, displaying equations that proved humanity's understanding of the universe went far beyond what the Collective had achieved. "We're not here to destabilize the galaxy," Elena continued. We're here to help free it from limitations it never needed to accept. The sphere didn't just give us technology. It showed us a different way of thinking about reality itself. To demonstrate, the Mindforge vessel created a localized field that temporarily altered the fundamental constants of physics. Within that field, the collective ships found their own systems working better, achieving efficiencies their designers had thought impossible. This is what the sphere chose us for, Sarah explained, her consciousness still merged with the vessel's systems, not because humans are special, but because we never stopped questioning, never stopped imagining what might be possible. The collective diplomats watched in stunned silence as their own technology responded to the human vessel's influence, showing them possibilities they had never considered. This wasn't just advanced technology. It was a fundamentally different approach to understanding the universe. "We offer you a choice," Alina said, her voice carrying the weight of the moment. "Continue trying to control and limit advancement, or join us in exploring what's really possible when we stop letting our assumptions define our limits." The Mindforge vessel pulsed again, sharing more insights that sent the collective scientists into frenzied discussion. Each revelation showed them not just new technology, but new ways of thinking about technology itself. "The sphere told us you would come," Alina concluded. "It showed us this moment, this choice. What happens next depends on whether the collective is ready to learn as well as teach." Above Earth, dozens of collective ships hung in space, their crews grappling with implications that threatened to overturn millennia of established doctrine. Humanity hadn't just caught up to them. In some ways, they had surpassed them. And this, they were beginning to realize, was only the beginning. The emergency session of the Collective Council stretched into its third day, with representatives from over 1,000 species debating the implications of humanity's sudden advancement. The Grand Chamber, normally a model of ordered discourse, had devolved into chaos. "They must be contained," thundered Ambassador Krell of the militant sectors, his crystalline form pulsing with aggressive energy. "Every moment we delay gives them time to advance further." But even as he spoke, the displays around the chamber showed real-time feeds from Earth, where human understanding of the sphere's gifts continued to evolve at an unprecedented rate. The Mindforge vessel had been joined by others, each one demonstrating capabilities that challenged fundamental assumptions about physics and technology. High Elder Vix, oldest of the council members, watched the feeds with growing concern. "Containment is no longer possible," she stated, her ancient voice cutting through the chaos. "The humans aren't just using advanced technology. They're understanding it in ways we never have." Back on Earth, Alina Santos stood in the newly constructed Nexus Command Center, monitoring the collective's debate through quantum observation technologies that made their most sophisticated encryption seem primitive. Beside her, Sarah Mitchell's consciousness remained partially linked to the Mindforge vessel, giving her insights that transcended normal human perception. "They're afraid," Sarah observed, her voice carrying echoes of the vessel's quantum awareness. "Not just of what we can do, but of what we represent. We're proving that everything they thought they knew about technological progress was wrong." Elena nodded. The sphere had prepared them for this moment, showing them how their advancement would challenge the very foundations of galactic society. They built their civilization on the idea that progress must be controlled, measured, restricted, she said. "We're showing them another way is possible." In orbit, the collective's observation fleet had grown to hundreds of ships, each one trying to analyze and understand the human vessels that moved among them with impossible grace. First observer Zix 427, who had watched Earth for so long, found himself becoming an unexpected advocate for humanity. "Look at how they approach technology," he argued in a private transmission to the Council. "Where we see limits to be respected, they see possibilities to be explored. Their ships don't fight against universal constants. They dance with them." The debate reached a critical point when a faction of the militant sectors, unwilling to wait for Council consensus, launched what they called a containment action. A fleet of their most advanced warships emerged from hyperspace, weapons primed. But humanity had been prepared for this too. The mind-forged vessels didn't react with violence. Instead, they created fields of altered physics that caused the attacking ship's weapons to simply stop working. Not through force or counteraction, but by showing the very particles they were composed of a better way to interact. "We understand your fear." Elena's voice reached every ship in orbit, carried by quantum vibrations that couldn't be blocked. "But what we're offering isn't a threat. It's an opportunity." The sphere chose humanity not because we're superior, but because we never lost our ability to imagine. To demonstrate, the mind-forged vessels began sharing data, not just technical specifications, but new ways of thinking about technology itself. The collected scientists watched in amazement as their own devices began working better, achieving things their designers had thought impossible. "Your civilizations have advanced so far," Sarah added. Her consciousness merged with her vessel's systems, but somewhere along the way you stopped asking what if. You built rules around your assumptions and never questioned them again. In the council chamber, the displays showed something unprecedented. Human ships were helping collective vessels achieve their full potential, not by changing their technology, but by showing them how to think about it differently. "This is what the sphere saw in us," Elena explained to the watching galaxy. "Not our technology or our intelligence, but our persistent ability to question everything, even our own beliefs about what's possible." The militant sector's attack fleet found themselves unable to maintain hostile intent, not through force, but through understanding. Their weapons hadn't been disabled. They had been enlightened, shown their own potential for something greater than destruction. High Elder Vix watched as decades of certainty about humanity's place in the galaxy crumbled. "They're not just advancing," she realized aloud. "They're trying to help us advance with them." The sphere's choice of humanity began to make sense. In a galaxy that had grown comfortable with its limitations, Earth had produced a species that never stopped pushing boundaries, never stopped asking questions, never stopped imagining what might be possible. As the crisis point passed, transformed by human insight into an opportunity for growth, the collective began to understand. The sphere hadn't given humanity power over the galaxy. It had given the galaxy a chance to remember what real progress looked like. The challenge wasn't containing humanity. The challenge was learning to see the universe through their eyes, where every limitation was just an invitation to ask what if. "Would you like me to continue with the final part, New Dawn? It will bring resolution to the story and show how this transformation changes both humanity and the galaxy." 1 year after humanity's dramatic revelation to the galaxy, the Grand Chamber of the Collective Council had undergone a transformation that symbolized a deeper change. The once rigid crystalline architecture now flowed with organic curves, traditional and new technologies working in harmony. But the real transformation was happening in the minds of the galaxy's oldest civilizations. Elena Santos stood before the assembled representatives of 1,000 worlds, her presence a testament to how much had changed. Behind her, through the chamber's vast windows, Earth's first mind-forged vessels danced with their collective counterparts, teaching and learning in equal measure. "A year ago, you saw our advancement as a threat," she began, her voice carried by quantum harmonics that made every species hear her in their native tongue. "Today, we gather to celebrate not just human progress, but a new understanding of what progress truly means." Sarah Mitchell, her consciousness still partly linked to the mind-forged network, added, "The sphere didn't choose humanity because we were special. It chose us because we never stopped believing that special things were possible." Throughout the galaxy, the effects of this new philosophy were becoming apparent. Worlds that had been held back by collective restrictions were flowering with innovation. Species that had accepted their limitations were remembering how to question them. "The greatest gift the sphere gave us wasn't technology," Elena continued. "It was the confirmation that our way of thinking, our endless questioning, our refusal to accept limitations, our ability to imagine beyond what we know, was exactly what the galaxy needed." First observer Zix 427, now serving as a bridge between human and collective understanding, gestured to the displays showing technological breakthroughs happening across hundreds of worlds. "We thought we were protecting the galaxy by controlling advancement," he admitted. "Instead, we were holding it back from its full potential." The evidence was undeniable. Worlds that adopted humanity's approach to physics and technology were achieving in months what had once taken centuries. But more importantly, they were discovering their own unique ways of understanding the universe. "This is what real progress looks like," Sarah explained, as the Mindforge vessels demonstrated principles that merged consciousness with quantum mechanics. Not one species advancing while others watch, but all of us growing together, each contributing our unique perspective. The sphere's true purpose had become clear. It hadn't been waiting for a species advanced enough to find it. It had been waiting for one that could help the galaxy remember how to dream. Humanity's gift wasn't their technology or their intelligence, but their unshakable belief that there was always more to discover. High Elder Vix, who had lived long enough to see civilizations rise and fall, spoke with emotion that surprised even herself. "We built our society on the principle of controlled progress, believing it was the only way to prevent chaos. The humans have shown us that true stability comes not from control, but from understanding." The Mindforge network had expanded, not just through human ships, but through an ever-growing web of consciousness and technology that spanned the galaxy. It wasn't a human network, it was becoming something greater, a manifestation of what was possible when different species learned to see through each other's eyes. The sphere's message wasn't just for humanity, Elena revealed. It was for all of us. It showed us a universe where the laws of physics aren't rigid rules, but guidelines that can be understood, negotiated with, and even transcended. Not through force, but through understanding. As she spoke, the chamber itself seemed to pulse with possibility. The technology that had once been used to restrict and control was being transformed, awakening to its full potential just as the species that had built it were awakening to theirs. "This is just the beginning," Sarah said, her consciousness touching the vast network of minds and machines that was reshaping the galaxy. "Every day, we're discovering new questions to ask, new possibilities to explore. And we're doing it together." The sphere's choice of humanity made perfect sense now. In a galaxy that had grown too certain of its limitations, too comfortable with its restrictions, Earth had produced a species that never lost its capacity for wonder, its ability to look at the impossible and ask, why not? As the session ended, Elena looked out at the assembled representatives of a galaxy in transformation. The fear was gone, replaced by something far more powerful, hope. Not just for what humanity could achieve, but for what all species could become when they remembered how to imagine. "The sphere didn't give us power over the galaxy," she concluded. "It gave us the chance to show the galaxy its own power. And this is only the first step. Together, we're going to discover what's really possible when we stop accepting what we think we know and start asking what we could become." Above Earth, around distant stars, and in the spaces between, the new network of consciousness and technology pulsed with potential. The galaxy was awakening, not to humanity's tune, but to a symphony of possibility that all species were learning to play together. The dawn of this new age wasn't marked by conquest or control, but by understanding. And somewhere, in dimensions beyond normal space and time, the beings who had left the sphere watched with satisfaction as their long experiment bore fruit. Humanity hadn't just passed their test, they had transformed it into something greater than its creators had imagined. The age of limitations was over. The age of imagination had begun.